So welcome everybody to today's WEConnect International webinar. So you want to be on a board, but do you have what it takes, which is being presented. My name is Maggie Berry and I run the WEConnect International campaign here in Europe, and I'm delighted that you've joined us today. To keep background noise to a minimum, participants, you're all going to be on mute, but you can submit questions using the chat functionality, and we'll also have a chance to ask questions at the end of the session as well, and Yvonne's going to try and answer the questions that were submitted in advance as well. So today Yvonne is going to be talking to us about the skills, the disciplines, the passion, as well as the traits and the characteristics that you need to be on a board, and whether that's the board of another SME, within a charity or a public sector organisation, or the board of governors at your local school. And Yvonne has spent over 30 years working in the communications industry, and having spent nearly half of that time being the only woman on a board with 9 men, she has experienced at first hand how lonely being at the top can be for women. So she decided to share her experience by writing a book to help others, and she spent a year researching and talking to highly successful women in boardrooms. And through 22 women's stories, she's moving the women on board's conversation from being facts and figures to an easily achievable goal that both men and women can aspire to. And she's going to share some of that knowledge with us today. So Yvonne, thank you so very much for joining us. And I'm going to pass the presenter rights over to you so that you can take us through your presentation about being on a board and do we have what it takes. Yvonne, over to you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maggie. It works. Fantastic. So welcome to everyone from all around the world. I'm absolutely fascinated at the wonder of digital communications. So my name is Yvonne Thompson. Thank you for joining me. I know for those of you in the UK, you've taken the last hour out of your work time, and it's very precious, and it's a very precious hour because you're on your way home. So I'm going to make this as interesting as I possibly can for you. And for those of you around the world, thank you so much for joining in. And of course, thanks to Maggie and WEConnect for making it all happen. So, why did I write this book? I'm a great follower of Oprah Winfrey, and she says preparation plus opportunity equals luck. But I've added action in there because it doesn't matter how much preparation you have and how much opportunity you have. If you don't make the first move, it's not going to, oh, I've got somebody on video. I've got someone's video. Is that supposed to be happening?
No, I think Yvonne is coming up. Maybe it's looking like it's you, so I don't know if you've clicked the button, but if anybody is using video, we're just dialing in using audio this afternoon, so you don't need to switch your videos on.
Okay, that's great. Sorry, to get back to where I was. Yeah, it's really about all the experience that I've had, and I've put it together in a book because I really wanted to share with so many other women who are now coming to the fore and really looking at what it means to be on a board, what it takes to be on a board. So I'm hoping by the end of the webinar I will have inspired you, I will have motivated you, and I would have galvanized you towards taking some action, either for your first board position or moving up the ladder in your workplace, wherever you are. But before I do that, I must apologize because I'm just at the other end of a cold. So if my voice sounds a bit croaky and if it disappears, you know why. But I'll try to make sure that it doesn't. So just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I'm a great believer that adversity can be the stimuli for success. I've come from what I would consider to be a fairly poor background. My parents arrived in the UK in 1960. Answering the call of Queen and country to the Commonwealth brothers and sisters to come to the UK and help them to rebuild the UK. So we all anxiously and excitedly rushed to the UK. And what did we face? One of the first things we faced as we arrived here, of course, was prejudice. And at that time, it was still legal to have notices on your doors that says, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs, no children, all the no's, basically. But Despite that, my parents found a 2-room basement flat in Battersea, which is in South London, and there were 6 children and my 2 parents. And over the next 8 years, 8 of us lived in 2 rooms in a basement flat in Battersea. But I've got to tell you, they were some of the most momentous times. I'm seeing somebody else on video. Can you ask people to turn their videos off, Maggie? Oh, no.
Yvonne, you did it yourself. It's fine. You're in complete control. You're okay to ask people. It's coming up for me that it's your video. I can't see anybody else at the moment. And so don't let that worry. Please just carry on. Thanks. I'll put a wee note out. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so during those 8 years that we spent in 2 rooms in Battersea, they were some of the most momentous times of not only of my life, but I think within the world. During that time, John F. Kennedy became president. During that time, he was assassinated. During that time, Martin Luther King took a 1 million-man march onto Washington, and he was also soon after assassinated. Also, unless you're a conspiracy theorist, man did walk on the moon. So that great phrase, one small step for man, one giant step for mankind, came into being. So great things were happening at that time, and that started the formation of my character, if you like. When my dad came to the UK, or before he came to the UK, we came from Guyana in South America, and he was a policeman there. But once he got to the UK, he very quickly found that there was no way he was going to be in law enforcement. So he became a plumber's mate at St. Thomas's Hospital. As for my mother, I could only describe her as a domestic goddess. I also called her a domestic entrepreneur. And my dad often teased not only her, but the family, saying, your mother's that type of woman that can make something out of nothing. And for me, it was true, but from a different perspective. For me, she always told me that success comes in cans, and there's no such thing as can't. So there was no such word in her vocabulary as can't. So if we move forward very quickly to my working years, and one of the very first times that I experienced not only setbacks, but I started to develop my resilience. Oh, I'm so sorry, someone's decided to call me. Oh, wow, I cannot believe it. Someone else will take that call. So, my first job was working at CBS Records, now known as Sony Records. And that was really where I started honing my journey of resilience, and where I first really earned my gender and culture shock stripes. For the longest time, I was there for 6.5 years, and for the longest part of that 6.5 years, I was the only person of colour that you could see that wasn't behind the switchboard or wasn't the cleaner. And again, I had to grow my real backbone there, because as I moved up the ladder in that company, I deputised on several occasions as the head of press. When somebody left or when somebody went on holiday, I deputised as head of press. However, 3 times I was turned down for that position. And on the 3rd time, I decided that I'm not going to be walked over anymore, and the only way for me to move up was to move out and start my own company. So this is what I did, but I knew it was going to be really difficult becoming an entrepreneur, and I knew I would have to face what I call my 3 whammies. First of all, being a woman 30 years ago, it was really difficult to start your own business. It wasn't really heard of. Second whammy was even a higher hurdle to jump, and that was being a woman and being a black woman. More tough. The third whammy was being a woman, being a black woman, and having the audacity to think that I could start a company in PR. But I did all of those things. I got over all those hurdles. One of the biggest hurdles for me, and one of the biggest decisions I had to make, was when my family, being the first entrepreneur in my family, everyone was saying to me, "Oh, are you sure you're doing the right thing? You've got a daughter." By this time, I had a daughter of 5 years old. What's going to happen to her education? What are you going to do to bring her up? I was a single parent. Are you doing the right thing? All that white noise kept coming. But I forged the strength of my conviction and I stayed the course. I believed in myself. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here talking to you today as an author. The other thing that I'd like to tell you is that actually my daughter is now also an entrepreneur. She runs her own school of English and she is in Germany, of all places. So I think the entrepreneurial gene must have crossed over. But I've got to say, having an entrepreneurial mindset means that you always have to be in tune with new opportunities, new ways of inventing yourself, new ways of looking at calculated risks and daring to dream. And you have to look at risk as an opportunity rather than as a problem. So moving on, having the PR and freelance journalist background, I was invited to become a non-executive of the first Black legal radio station, Choice FM, which is now known as Capital Extra. And again, I had all these people saying to me, "Oh, it's never going to happen, it will fail, you'll never get a legal license, you're investing your money, you know, in a pirate radio station." And again, the white noise came. But focus, determination, and time has proven for me, the naysayers, to be wrong in their predictions, and it's a very different story. As Maggie said, I was the only woman on a board of 10 on the board of Choice FM, and being the only female on that board, I felt like I was a minority within a minority, because it was really difficult to have my voice heard. And it was then that I just thought, you know, this can't be right, things have got to be done, and I went out and started talking to other women and finding out more about people sitting on boards. Of course, since then, I've sat on many boards, I've chaired many boards, I've sat on many committees. I'm still, and that's both public and private sector, and I've even been on committees in the European Union. Currently, I'm still on the Council for the City of Guilds, and I'm also on the Economic Honours Committee at the Cabinet Office. Most of the times that I sat on those boards and those committees, quite often I was not only the only female, but more often than not, I was the only person of colour. But it was my passion, my persistence over the years that eventually earned me some stripes that I could never buy. And my work with women, small business, and minorities, I was recognised with a CBE on the Queen's Birthday Honours List, and that was for my work with minorities and small business in 2003. Then in 2005, I received an honorary doctorate from the London Metropolitan University for my support with SMEs. And just last November, I received yet again another honorary doctorate for my work in business, enterprise, and global diversity from the Plymouth University and Greenwich School of Management. I rattled through that very quickly, but I don't tell you this to impress you, but to impress upon you that hard work, drive, focus, passion, determination, resilience can get you the stripes that you need to earn to get you anywhere you want to go. But you have to go through the learning, you've got to do the apprenticeships, and you cannot expect to arrive on a board and be ready to go. So I'm going to move on to my next slide. And yes, I did say to you that I do love Oprah. And she says, if you gather inspiration from people who have made it in life, you can start a trend. And this was a trigger for me to think about how I would want to write my book and what I would do. I sat down for lunch with a friend that I've known for a long time, who was always encouraging me to write a book, and he always said, "Oh, you've got a book in you." And I think everybody's got a book in them. And it was just about how I was going to get that book out of my head and onto paper. Now, he coincidentally sent me an article about 30 women on boards from a magazine called Brunel Magazine. I knew 7 of those women, and I thought to myself, I'm going to invite them to do interviews, and if all of them say yes, they'll do the interview, I will write a book. And guess what? They all said yes. So now I had to write a book. And what was fantastic, they were all willing to share their experience. They were all willing to give their tips, their experience, their strategies of how they got there and why they got there, and what keeps them there. So I spoke to the 22, I spoke to the 7, and that list actually became expanded to 60 and then contracted back to 22. And I decided right there and then that I was going to write this book. I had to write the book now. So these are my 22 women on boards. I call them my real models. I don't call them role models. I call them real models because they are at the vanguard of social change. Now, for me, I had to get as much information from them to make sense of this whole Women on Boards experience. I read lots of books, and there are books about books. There are books about facts. There's books about figures. There's books about policies, and I read a lot of them. But for me, what it boiled down to was that it's not facts, figures, and policies that inspire people. It's people that inspire people. Now, this book is full of inspiration. It's all about changing the mindset of not only women, other women on boards, but it's also about changing the mindset about male-dominated boardrooms. That really needed a paradigm shift. So this is really about the hearts and minds, their struggles, what they went through, and what they did to get to the boards and to stay on the boards. I also included 3 men because we can't do it without the men, and I call them my 3 wise men. So I interviewed all of these women. I asked them all 30 identical questions. For the most part, the interviews took place at their office or at home. I brought along a small video camera, a camera crew, makeup artists, and they relaxed and let me into their lives. By the end of all of the interviews, I was swamped with so much data. I had to find a way of formatting this into digestible chunks, but the most difficult part of the project was really getting it into, as I said, digestible chunks and understandable chunks. And it wasn't until that I read and reread the interview several times that the pattern emerged. So, and here is the pattern. What came out of it was that all of these women showed outstanding abilities on leadership. They knew what educational knowledge they needed to get on their board. And I can't stress the importance of ensuring that you invest in yourself as far as education is concerned. And whether that's through coaching, whether it's through going to university, online, whatever it is, you have to make sure that you have the right level of education and the right sort of education for the right kind of boards that you want to get to. They showed a level of being able to accept advice and be able to use that advice to overcome diversity. They were also really willing to give advice and tips. D is for diversity, embracing diversity, and they all recognize that this could be the difference of getting diverse thinking on a board. Diverse thinking on a board gives you a wider perspective of the world, not only of the world as far as race is concerned, but of the world from a gender perspective. And it's now proven that the more diverse the board is, the more profitable a board is. Emotional intelligence, they talk to me about the way they use their emotional intelligence and how they used it to survive corporate structures. In a way, we're also talking about conscious and unconscious bias, you know, how people are perceived and how you perceive other people. They talked about resilience. I call this their bounce back ability, the ability to get up, dust yourself off and start all over again. Then I added something that I call the sidebar, and this is really interesting because the sidebar is what they did outside of work that gave them the energy, the clear mind space to go back to doing what they do on a weekly basis. So what they do at the weekend and in the evening is very, very important. One particular example that I like to talk about is Paula Bennells, who's the Chief Executive of the Post Office. During the week, she tussles with life in a very union and male-dominated arena. At the weekend, Paula goes home and she's a vicar. She has her own parish. She christens babies, she marries people, she does confirmations, all the things that vicars do. So, and then she goes back to work at the post office the following Monday. So what I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about a couple of the traits. Really, the two that tend to stand out is leadership and resilience. And on leadership, Martin Luther King once famously said, "A genuine leader is not a searcher of consensus, but a builder of consensus." There are many tips, many traits, many pieces of advice. But what I wanted to give to you today was something that you can walk away with from this seminar and start to put into your own life to make a difference. And I hope that's what we're going to achieve. So let me tell you a little bit about leadership. For leadership, this requires you to cultivate a fellowship. You need to be authentic, which means being true to yourself and to those you lead. You need to think about the knowledge of leaders. Knowledge is like information. It's really useful, but it's useless unless you put it into action. Think about sharing your learning. Sharing your learning is critical. It helps you to develop your communication skills, and it not only develops pipelines for other women to come through, but it gives you external validation of your skills and your knowledge. If you want to communicate effectively, I know we all live in a digital age now, but email just will not do. Even though it's fast, and it's faster than trying to reach somebody, think about the personal touch. There's nothing like speaking to people. Now, when you're thinking about moving up the ladder and moving up the ladder to your next place or to your boardroom, find what I call cheerleaders. Find your supporters. Find people who are already in that space and surround yourself with them. They're out there and they're there to help you. One of the biggest things for a leader, or for some leaders I should say, is the fear of making a decision, because you know you're the leader of the pack and you don't want to make the decision. Well, it's often said that making the wrong decision is better than making no decision at all. Take advice and then make a decision. There will be lots of no's, but the best piece of advice that I've found recently is never take no personally. And this is where what allows you to get up and get back in the ring and keep fighting. So if we move on to resilience, having resilience means that you have the courage of your conviction. You have to have courage because it's not just about going down the route of least resistance. There's going to be a lot of bumps along the way. You have to feel the fear and do it anyway. And if you're looking for opportunities, make sure that you radiate what it is that you want. But also remember, you have to deliver on anything that you say you're going to deliver on, because you also have to remember that what you give out will come back. So always be good, deliver greatness, deliver with greatness, have self-awareness, be willing to know yourself well enough to use to sell your unique selling proposition. Don't be afraid to sell yourself. When you get the knocks, you can either lie down or you can get up and start fighting again. One of the things you must do, though, is that to recognize when you've gone through a hard time. And what you have to do is reward yourself and recharge your resilience. I use something that I call my 5 R's, and that is refresh, reboot, get ready, rinse, and repeat. So that gives you the energy and keeps you going. Obviously, there's a lot more than 7 traits. I can't go through them all right now, and there are a lot more tips and advice for you in the book. In fact, there's well over 100 that you can choose what suits you best and what resonates with you best and use it. 7 traits, there are a lot more than 7 traits, there are a lot more than 22 inspirational women, and of course there are a lot more than 3 wise men. That's really just a taster of the book. So I hope you've picked up on a lot of bits and pieces there, lots of tips, but what will you take away from the webinar today? What are you going to use to enrich your life? Which of the 7 traits most resonates with you, and how will you put it into action, starting as soon as you get off the webinar or starting tonight? What I'm going to do to help you to do that, let me just move this on. Oh, here we go. I've missed out this slide. So here's another fantastic orator that I like to quote. Lucius Seneca said, "As is a tale, so is life. It's not how long it is, but how good it is, and what you put into it that matters." So what are you going to put into your life to enrich your life and enrich your experience? As I said before, I'm going to be giving away 3 copies of my book in a draw live on this webinar. It's going to be a random draw so that it's fair. And all you have to do to enter the draw is to text your name, your email address, and the trait that most resonates with you. It doesn't have to be a trait that I've mentioned. It can be a trait of your own, because I'm looking for new traits. I'll announce the winners during the Q&A, so you have plenty of time to enter. Now, here's the details. And if you'd like some information, some of you have already written in asking, where can I go to find more information about getting on boards? Where can I network with like-minded people? There's lots of information that I can send to you. So if you enter the competition, or enter the draw, I should say, send me your name, your email address, and your top trait. I will send you back information. Now, I'd also like you to quote something, this code here, WC1, which is WEConnect 1. And if you quote WEConnect 1, you'll get the book at the WEConnect price of £12 rather than the price it is on Amazon, which is $15.99. We'll also shortly be opening the registration for our inaugural program, Demystifying the Boardroom, Women on Board. So that's going to be launched in September. We'll be doing a 2-day immersion course based in an exclusive venue in the Docklands. We start with dinner. You have overnight accommodation if you'd like to stay. And we'll be going through the 7 traits and all the subheadings under the 7 traits. And the program actually continues. It's a 6-month program. So I'll be able to tell you a lot more about that if you're interested. Some of our real models will be there. We'll have corporate speakers, and by the time you leave, you won't be board ready, but you will certainly be getting there. You'll be there looking and be ready to start your search for a board. So here's another tip for you to take away. If you start an action, if you start an action now by either making a mental decision or making a note, and take further action on your decision within 24 hours, you're more likely to be successful in the quest that you started. If you don't take action within the next 24 hours, you're more likely not to take action at all. One of the actions you can take on this is to enter the draw and win a book. If you're not successful in the draw, you certainly you will still be successful because you'll be getting the book at a WEConnect price. Now, I'm going to wind down there, and I'm going to actually start on the questions because before we started the webinar, we've had about 20 questions in already. So I'm going to try to answer as many of these as I possibly can, and am I able to get through these, I will, if I'm able to get through all of these questions, I will also take questions online. So you can start putting questions in, and we'll see if I can get to them. Now, one of the first questions that I had doesn't say who any of these questions are from, I'm afraid, but I'll go through them. How best to support the development of competencies needed at board level? Well, if you're already at board level, this goes back to the E in the leadership traits, and the E is about continuous learning. You must continuously learn. I think if you stop learning, it's almost like giving up, because everything is changing so fast these days. The world is changing so fast. Because of digital progress, everything is changing so quickly. So you have to be able to ride the wave and keep up with the wave. As far as board level competencies are concerned, it really depends on the kind of board you're on, whether you're on a board of governors at a school or whether you're on a corporate board, whether you're on a public sector board or a private sector board. But there are courses out there, and as I said earlier on, if you'd like some more information, just text or email me in and let me know what your question is. I will be able to send you some further information on that. The second question is, if you're already on local boards, how do you break through the barrier to get appointed onto a larger company board? Again, it depends on what kind of company board you're looking at. If you're looking at getting a FTSE 100 or a FTSE 500 or a FTSE board, this can be really difficult. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy. It's not easy. But women are there and women are doing it. And if you can look at the type of boards that you want to get on, you really have to research the company, you have to research the board, do your research, learn about the company, what kind of things they do. You have to examine the people on the board. Is it a board that you really want to be on? Who is the chairman? What's the chairman like? What has he achieved in life? What's his attitude towards diversity? Look at the other board members. Who are they? What have they done in their background? That's the kind of thing that you have to think about. Then you have to start thinking about headhunters. You have to think about the type of headhunter that you need to be signed up with to get you the kind of board position you want. Mm-hmm. So again, I can talk more about that if you'd like to text or email in. I'm happy to talk to you more, or even do a personal telephone conversation with you about that. Number 3, I'd like very much to join the board of a charity. How do you suggest approaching a charity? Again, it depends on the charity. What kind of charity do you like? You have to decide what's best for you. Once you know what's best for you, you have to then start to research the headhunters, because again, headhunters do headhunt for charities. Or there's never anything wrong, especially if it's a charity, there's never anything wrong with writing in, talking about, of course, once you've researched the charity, you know what it is they're looking for, know what they want, and talk about what you can bring to their table. They might just say to you, come in and have a discussion. They might want to know more about you. They might ask you to send a CV, ask you to talk about what it is you do. And they might then put you in their folder of potential candidates to talk to and to invite for an interview. So the key tips, number 4, the key tips for choosing the right board. And I think I've talked a bit about this already. The things that you need to think about when looking for the right board for you, you have to think of it both ways. It's not just about what's good for you, it's what's good for the board. So you need to look at your competencies. You have to think about and put down on paper what it is you have to bring to that board that's different to the board members that are already there. So that means researching the board members, researching who they are, what they do, what the company does, what they're looking for. Is there anything different than the board members who are already there that you could bring to the table that will make that big difference? Those are the type of things that you have to think about. And yes, also choosing the right board. You have to decide on what your characteristics are as compared with what the characteristics of the board and the other board members are. So it's thinking about you know, whether it might be whether they have the right gender balance. Would you want to be the only woman on the board? I know for me it was really tough, and I would have loved to have been able to get other women onto the board when I was on the board of Choice FM. Having another woman on a board is always a good thing. It's great to be able to have someone that you hopefully feel that you can talk to. Okay, let me move on because I've got quite a few more. Where do you find out about board vacancies? Well, it's the usual places. It is about checking the Sunday papers. It is about talking to headhunters. There are organisations that have that companies work with other than the headhunters that list their board vacancies. You could even think about some boards that you want to go on and check on their boards, check on their websites to see what vacancies they have. Sometimes they advertise board vacancies online, but you know, sometimes they don't. So it's all the usual places. I don't think there's a silver bullet that I can fire out there to tell you exactly where to look for vacancies. As far as the public sector is concerned, again, look at the different types of public sector organisations that you want to be involved with, whether it's a local primary trust as far as NHS is concerned. And the other place to look for public sector vacancies is the website for public appointments, which you can find through directgov.co.uk/public appointments. They allow you to register with them, and you can also register to receive a weekly or a monthly update of vacancies. I'm actually subscribed to a weekly update. So on a weekly basis, I get an update of what board vacancies are available through the Cabinet Office. Okay, let me move on again. Can you be a successful board member with minimal experience of managing a team? Yes, you can. You certainly can, because every experience counts. And again, it's all about the right board. Everybody's experience counts. You know, you might have a trait, a characteristic, some experience that other board members have not, do not have. And managing a board on minimal experience of managing a team, you don't necessarily have to manage a board. What you have to do is manage your expectations of being on that board and also manage the expectations of other board members of what you were there to deliver and what you were there to do. So let's move on to one which I often get. How do you deal with other females that only take male opinions and or ideas into consideration? I often find women are only interested in ideas that are put forward. Oh, hang on. I often find it is women who put the ideas that other women are second class. Well, my answer to that, sorry, I don't have your name, but the answer to that is another quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. There's a special place in hell for women who can't or don't help other women, or sorry, who don't help other women. And for me, I think that it's a really difficult one. And I think the only thing that you can do is just to stay the course. Again, as I've said, have the courage of your conviction and show that what you're saying or what you're doing and your ideas are as genuine, authentic, and as good as any man's can be. It is a difficult one to answer. And it's really, for me, without getting too emotional, it's quite upsetting to know that other women are out there putting other women down. But, you know, that's a whole other story. Let me move on to the question 8. Where do you go for training in order to get good and constructive? Sorry, where do you go for training in order to be a good and constructive board member? Well, this slide up in front of you is a very good place to start. As I said, the program Demystifying the Boardroom, which is about getting women on boards, is based on the 7 traits. It's based on a lot of information that have come both from men and from women. And it gives you the opportunity not only to be in a learning environment, a safe learning environment with other women, but you do actually get to meet some of the women in the book who are there, and they can tell you what their strategies were, how they did it, and so on and so forth. So I'm happy to talk to you a bit more about where to go. Other than that, let me be real. There are other women on boards programs, but I can't testify to how good they are. Of course, you can go off and do your own research and everything else. So, let me move on to the next one. Are there restrictions on where a board member is from, nationality, due to companies' house rules? Really depends on the companies. Again, it just depends on what, where you are and what you're doing, and what the company is. I don't, as far as I know, there aren't any restrictions because people come from all over the world and join companies. So I don't believe there are, but I don't think there's a legal restriction. However, obviously the rules apply. You need to have your to be able to work in this country and be able to do what we do here. But I think generally it's up to the company. How much time should I expect to devote to a board each week? Usually board meetings are once a month, depending on the company again. It could be more than that. It could be less than once a month. It could be once a quarter. Just depends on the company. How to connect with other Black Caribbean women professionals in the UK? Please do, I don't have the name of the person that sent that, but please do send me an email on any of those addresses or text me. I'm happy to tell you a bit more about my women's network, and it's not only in the UK, it's across the EU. In fact, it's global because we have women from all over the world, but most of us are based in the UK or the EU. Let's move on. What advice would you give to a young woman who is starting her career today? Get experience is probably, get the right experience, get the right education, focus if you are able to, because not all of us are able to focus and think of right now exactly where we want to be in 10 years' time, or exactly what board we want to be on, or, you know, even if we're still going to be in this country. But the main thing is about getting experience and getting the right education for the right place that you want to be. And with all of these questions, again, if you want to email me personally, I'll be happy to talk more to you about them. Okay, I'm down to number 16, I think. What sort of demand is there for female NEDs with my skill? Unfortunately, I don't know who sent that email in, and I don't know what your skills are. But again, if you want to email me and let me know, I can certainly, I work specifically or quite closely with two or three headhunting companies, and that could be a good place to start. So do email me, tell me what you're looking for, what your skills are, and we'll go from there. Okay, if a person is interested in being on a board, where can one look for such opportunities, assuming I tick all the boxes? I think I've answered that question. Again, I don't have the names, but I think I've answered all of those questions. You can look at the board of the company you want to be on. You can do some exploratory work on boards. You can join some headhunters. You can even write into the boards. So really, it depends on what you're looking for. Again, please feel free to email me. The last question I've got here that was sent in before: how do you find out about board opportunities in the first instance, and what are the requirements for the roles? Again, I think I may have answered that. That is about getting the right kinds of recruitment company on your side, or looking at the boards that you're interested in joining, researching who they are, what they're looking for, what they might be looking for, and just register an interest. There's absolutely nothing with registering an interest, as long as you feel you fit. You fit the role and you have the right requirements. There's absolutely nothing wrong with writing in. But my main takeaways are really about getting the right education, find a good coach, find a good mentor. If you're already in a corporate structure, then think about getting what we call a sponsor from within the company. And that's someone who will open their black book for you, who will, so in a way they are a mentor. A sponsor is a mentor and a coach plus, because not only will they help you find the way through the corporate ladder, but they will also open their black book for you. They will help you with networking. They will recommend you. But you've got to be able to give back to them. You've got to make sure that you don't let them down, because they're putting their reputation on the line for you. So I'm going to end there. We've got about 10 minutes left, I think. I don't know if we've got any other questions in the chat box. I can't see my chat box, I'm afraid. So I don't know, Maggie, if you can help me with that, if there's been any other questions that have come in.
Hi, Yvonne. No, there hasn't been any questions on the chat function, but if you're ready to start taking, certainly if anybody is on, who's online would like to put any questions to Yvonne at the moment that she's not covered off already, please do use the chat functionality, and you can put your questions there. I'm going to ask you all to still remain on mute, because it does get very noisy if we open up all the participants. So yes, if you've got any questions that you'd like Yvonne to answer, please do use the chat functionality. That would be great. Oh, and somebody just said, apparently they have been sent to you. So this is from Charlotte, and Yvonne, she's asking, what if you cannot break through becoming a director because the room is full, yet you're really already doing the role in your company? How can you get there? And she's wondering, is it just a case of moving companies?
Well, I was about to say that, as I mentioned before, if you get a copy of the book, you'll see a lot of the women in the book have said this. Sometimes you just have to move because you're not appreciated where you are. It's not something that I would say that you take lightly. You obviously have to do your research outside first and see where you can move to, if there's room to move. Get advice, get some mentoring, talk to other people, and make a really informed decision, because you don't just want to jump ship and then find that it's been the wrong thing to do. I don't know how long you've been in your company. For me, I was in my role at CBS I was at CBS for nearly 6.5 years, and 3 times I deputized for head of press, and 3 times I was turned down. At that point, I just knew that the only way for me to move up was to move out, and I guarantee you, it's such freedom. For me, it was such freedom. I just realized what else I've been missing, because a whole new world opened up out there. And working for myself, I then got the opportunity to choose who I worked for. I could talk to who I wanted to talk to. I could talk to what clients, or choose the clients I wanted to work with. I could be on other boards. I could do things that I couldn't do working for a corporate entity. So, sometimes you just have to feel the fear and do it. But as I say, to make the decision, make an informed decision. Don't just, well, I'm sure you're sensible enough to not just get up and move. And again, I'm happy to have some discussions with you. I'm happy to have a discussion with everybody and anybody that wants to talk about anything offline. So do please feel free to come back to me.
Great, thanks, Yvonne. And then we've only just got a few minutes left, and I've got one more question that's come through, which is on your leaders, the S is sidebar, and somebody's asked, what do you mean exactly by sidebar? So maybe could you just run back through that final letter of your leaders?
Sure. The sidebar is what you do outside of work that enables you to refresh, re-energize, and reboot to be able to go back into work on Monday, ready to get in that game and, do all the things. Maybe you weren't online when I talked about this, but my best example, and the one that I love to repeat, is the Chief Executive of the Post Office, Paula Bennells. And at the weekends, during the week, she is in fights, almost physically, with unions, and she's in a very male-orientated arena. So a lot of men in the post office, a lot of union work. So she's fighting on a daily basis. But at the weekend, she's a vicar. She goes home and she has she has a congregation. She baptizes babies. She marries people. She does confirmations, holy communions, all the things that vicars do. And she says it's the best replenishment for her soul. So she continues to do that and has done that for many years. But that's an extreme example. Whatever it is that you do, whether you run marathons, whether you swim the channel, whether you horse ride, whether you just go out and have some real quality time with friends and families, or whether you just go down the pub, as long as you don't get too drunk and you are able to be refreshed and re-energized to come back in on Monday to do the job that you're paid to do. So that's what the sidebar is all about. And the sidebar in the book also talks about things that make you a woman. It talks about, I ask the women, what do they carry in their handbag? and you'd be surprised that some of them don't carry handbags. And one person is very surprising because she carries a marble in her handbag. And you have to read the book to find out why. You know, one lady talks about one of the things that she does is she carries red lipstick with her at all times because she never knows when she's going to have to go into a meeting, and putting on her red lipstick is like putting on her armor. So there's so many things in there that it's just absolutely amazing to read what these women do and how they do it. So unless there are any more questions, I'm going to announce who the winner of the winners of the 3 copies are. We've had a few in, and as I say, I'm going to take them at random. And I think I've got somebody in the Netherlands, Dana van Hess. Dana van Hess, you're a winner, so we'll have to communicate and make sure that I get your address after. Charlotte Joyce. Yeah, I've got, so Charlotte Joyce is also a winner. And I have got somebody from Imogen Mansfield I've got here. But I don't see an Imogen on the thing. But yes, so Imogen, you're also a winner. So I'll be getting in touch with Imogen, with Charlotte, and with Dana. So with that, I'm guessing it's time for me to wrap up. The hour has gone really quickly. I hope you've all enjoyed it. And as I said, I'm open to either talk. Please do email me, text me, or Twitter, whatever your best means of communication is. Do let me know, and I'll be happy to get back with you. It just leaves me now to say thank you all for joining me. I hope to hear from many of you. Also, thank you so much, Maggie, for putting this together. It's been a real fantastic experience. All of you from all around the world, I look forward to being in touch with you and keeping and communicating with you. So with that, I think it's time for me to say goodbye. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, that you covered a lot of ground, and obviously this is a big topic, looking at women on boards. I mean, that's why there's such a focus on it. And I think if we can all look at your leaders acronym and take the bits from that really resonate with us. I think one of the things for me that kind of hit home for me was the comment that you made about never taking no personally. Just get back out there and try again. So yes, I think it's very easy for your confidence to get dented, but it's not personal. And I think the other interesting thing was around the headhunters. And what I'll do, I'll catch up with you afterwards and get some links and resources that you think might be useful for us to share with everybody on the call afterwards. So everybody, thank you very much for joining. I will make sure to send a recording and a copy of the slides, and I'll get the info from Yvonne about getting a discount on the book. So for those of you who weren't lucky enough to win this afternoon, I'll make sure that you can get a discount code if you would like to go ahead and buy the book online. But with that, I just want to say thanks very much, everybody. We'll certainly be hosting future webinars on different topics, and I'll make sure that I pass and share all those information on with you. So just enjoy the rest of your day. If you've got any questions for Yvonne, her contact details have been on the slides, and I'll make sure that you've got them in the follow-up email. And if there's anything you'd like to ask about WEConnect International, please do get in touch with me. So thanks very much, everyone, and thank you very much, Yvonne, as well.
Thank you.